My wife and I will play games on occasion. Rarer still will she let me film them on camera. So we thought we'd settle down and play one of our favourites, the Royal Game of Ur. The Royal Game of Ur is one of the oldest games that we actually know the rules for. For decades, archaeologists across the Near East found boards and pieces of this game at archaeological digs and old city sites, but they never quite figured out how to play it. One day, they even found in a royal tomb at the ancient city of Ur a full set of this game, all the pieces, the dice, the board, but not the rules. So even though they had all they needed to play, they didn't have the one thing they needed to make sense of the set. Ur is of course one of the oldest cities that is in recorded history. There are other cities around the world that can stake the claim to being the oldest that humans have ever created. But Ur holds the position of honour as being a place that Father Abraham himself came from. And apparently, Ur also enjoyed a good game, but not one that we knew the rules for a while. That was until they found some cuneiform tablets on which they found the rules for this game. Not the rules precisely for the original game, but a set of rules that you could use in order to gamble with this game. From there, archaeologists were able to backwards engineer to the root game, and now, more or less, we know how this game works. As you probably can see, we're moving our counters around the board, and our goal is to get all 7 around the board first. Whoever does so wins. We have made some of our own personal tweaks to this game, house rules that we find work particularly well, namely the ones involving the flowers on the board. Now we do know the flower at the centre of the board is the safe square, but what the other 4 were for, well, I wasn't quite sure from my own research. What we do with them is we use them as a ×2. If you can have a piece on both quarters of the game, then you can have a double bonus to your roll. The dice in the original game were little pyramid shapes, basically the equivalent of a 4-sided dice today. But at the corner of 2 of those tips would be a white splodge, telling you how many spaces you'd be able to move, depending on how many white splodges were pointing up. Essentially, it was a coin toss, and so that's what we're using today. Like many games, this game contains an element of strategy and an element of luck. With the dice rolls, it does not allow a professional player to absolutely trounce a less skilled one, but if a player cannot keep a head for numbers and have a bit of strategy, they will not be able to win. Typically in these number games, my wife does indeed win. She has a head for numbers, where I usually have a head for, well, stories. What I love about this game is it reveals that even though thousands of years have passed since it was ever a popular game to play, people nonetheless back then were people like today. There are accounts of people playing this game and using a contemptible flick whenever they removed an opponent's piece from the board, or when, probably in the gambling versions of the game, things got heated, fights could break out. Fortunately, no fights broke out this evening, but we certainly did have a few moments where we made sure the other person followed the rules appropriately. I really enjoy board games, but I, like others, can fall into a slight problem. One that can be defined as finding players to play a game with you. This is not all that surprising. There are so many games out there that tickle different people's fancy regarding what they enjoy, rule mechanics, worlds, settings. So it's not all that surprising that something that seems perfect for you may not be perfect for everybody. It's particularly frustrating when a game that you enjoy does not seem to be enjoyed by others in your household. It's a problem that I've noticed other people have on social media sites and that kind of thing. But I think I've found a kind of solution. One that maybe shifts a few paradigms for some people. You see, my wife enjoys games, but she does not enjoy the kinds of games that I like, at least not all the games I like. She's not one for large 2-hour monstrosities. She's not one for mechanics that layer upon mechanics for theme's sake more than gameplay's sake. But she does like playing games. So the solution for us is simply to find a game that we both enjoy playing. It does mean that I'll need to put aside my new pet favourite for now, but we can do it. We can find games out there that we both enjoy. This is not a compromise. We're finding one that we both enjoy. For Beth, she enjoys number games, crunching efficiencies out of those different parameters. But she also enjoys a game that is half an hour, preferably less. I enjoy games that have legacy, some sort of old history, like the Royal Game of Ur. I also enjoyed the fact that I was able to create the board myself. And when I play the Royal Game of Ur, I feel a connection to people from long ago, as I have this experience, as I knuckle down and try and figure out the problem that they too tried to solve thousands of years ago. I kind of get a kick out of it. So in that way, I really enjoy this game. And so does my wife. So I think the solution to trying to find players to play a game with you is not just looking for players to play a game, but rather finding a game that fits the players that you have. Now obviously this mentality applies to myself and my wife, but it doesn't have to apply to a significant other. It could apply to your neighbour, a friend, a sibling, a work colleague. If you find a game that both of you enjoy, you can both enjoy that game together. Now you could probably call me pompous and sanctimonious, saccharine and overly sentimental. I probably am all those things. But I do mean what I say. And by trying to find a game that fits the players, not players that fits the game, that approach has led to myself and my wife spending more time with each other, playing these games. And ultimately, for me, that's a win.